I've read almost 100 books on self-improvement. These are the ones that will actually make you richer. So don't read 80 to 100 books like I did, just watch this video. I've read the classics like Rich Dad, Poor Dad and The Intelligent Investor, all the way through to newer ones like Psychology of Money and Millionaire, Fastlane. I've also included books on investing, business, psychology, even a few spiritual ones, because I put all of these in the same bucket, self-improvement. When it comes to both health and wealth, you've got to look at the whole person. You have to level up you to level up your finances. Otherwise, you'll either lose it all because you weren't ready, or you'll just end up being a rich asshole with no friends or family. If you want to hear how I distill all of this wisdom into a few single action steps, stick around to the end. So let's get started with the absolute classics. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. This is the gateway drug of self-help and financial freedom. First, you're reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Next thing, you're chasing passive income like some kind of investment junkie. Kiyosaki compares his two dads, one rich, one poor, and how their mindsets shaped everything. The big takeaway? Understanding assets versus liabilities. Your house or your car isn't an asset if it costs you money every month. It's a liability. Real assets are things that make you money while you sleep, like investments or businesses. It's a little dated now, but it's still a foundational read for anyone who wants to build financial freedom. Cashflow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. This one gives you a clear framework for how people earn their money. Your employee, self-employed, business owner, or investor. The left side trades time for money. The right side owns the systems and investments that pay them. The goal? To move from working in the system to owning the system. The next is The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. Massively iconic book for the entrepreneur-pilled millennials. This is the rich dad, poor dad of the 21st century. It discusses not waiting until you retire to live your best life, how you can cut back on your hours and unlock yourself from a location. It talks about eliminating wasted time. Could you achieve similar results with less time? Based on Parkinson's law, which states the more time you have to complete a task, the more time it takes, and the complexity swells to meet that. Like, when you have 3 weeks to write an essay, you spend 3 weeks thinking about how big and grand and complex it is, versus being told to write an essay in an hour. If you have 3 weeks, it takes 3 weeks. If you have an hour, it takes an hour. As well as the 80-20 rule, where 80% of the outputs or results come from 20% of your actions. Think about a sales job. The actual money is made during sales calls or client closings. But how much time is spent in meetings, discussing strategy, filing reports, handling expenses? How can you cut out all of that wasted time? Then Tim talks about automation. What can you automate? Then outsource. What can you pay someone else to do? And finally, liberate yourself from your job. Now we've got The Millionaire, Fastlane by DeMarco. This book is one of my favorites. It changed my mindset completely. My background is working a job and getting paid okay, but funneling as much money as I can into real estate on the side. This works to a point, but I realized that until I uncapped my income, I would always be limited by it, and I could only ever go so far. This book talks about the 3 lanes: the sidewalk, the slow lane, and the fast lane. The sidewalk is basically nothing. You're not even playing the game. You're sitting on the couch playing Xbox, not working or studying towards your future. The slow lane is the traditional method of making money. You work your job, save your income, and slowly in 30 years, you'll be rich. The fast lane is where you can get rich quickly, but not easily. MJ argues that getting rich quick is definitely a thing, but getting rich easy, not so much. He talks about owning your money tree, like a business, brand, product, system, something that you can retain control of that earns you money based on your prior efforts, that can also be scaled indefinitely. Unlike your job, where you trade your time for money and only have so much time, so it can't be scaled. This book changed my mindset and completely changed my strategy and the course of my life. Psychology of Money by Housel. I love this book. I'll make a whole video on this book because I love it so much. This book for me turned on a light bulb for why people do what they do in the financial world. Money is 80% action, 20% knowledge. It's like eating healthily. You know you shouldn't smash 10 Krispy Kremes, but you do it anyway. And a lot of the time you know what to do. Then why do we struggle to do it? So one of the key takeaways for me was the lack of attribution to luck. A lot of the time, the extremely wealthy happen to be in the right place at the right time. And yeah, they worked really hard and were incredibly smart, but still lucky. For example, Bill Gates just happened to go to the school that had the one computer in the district. And it was even luck that the school even had it. Also, his best friend, who was also working on computers, died in a mountain climbing accident. That guy could have been the co-founder of Microsoft, and Bill Gates could have been the one to die. The point is that luck plays a massive part. And once I learned this, I started seeing it everywhere. I see time and again people who make a trade or invest in a single stock pick and they make great returns and think they're a genius and can replicate it. Then they bet big on a trade, lose it all. And it's because they attributed the initial win to genius when it's actually just educated gambling that works out. And now you think you can repeat it. Another great point that I took out of this book is that people are more conditioned by their environment than logic when it comes to investing. It's actually their past which drives their investment preferences moving forward. If you have a bad experience with stocks as your first investment, you go to real estate or crypto or vice versa. Then people tend to give you all the reasons why they chose it because of stats or logic, when really it's just the human reward and punishment system driving your decisions. The heart and gut decides, and the brain justifies. I saw this with basically every investing book I read too. If they were a property guy that had a bad experience with shares, or if they were a shares guy that had a bad experience with property, etc., etc. They all had very logical reasons for their preference though, but it was still the experience that shaped them. Also, wealth is built when you stay level and don't panic or let the ego get involved. And wealth is also built in the things you don't buy, what you don't pay for to signal your wealth, but put away into things that actually accumulate wealth like shares, crypto, or real estate. Honestly, just a fantastic book and one of the first books I'd recommend people buy and read. It's a great foundation to build a solid investing mindset on. Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham has the Warren Buffett sticker of approval, so say no more, but has some really good technical advice for anyone who wants to invest in the stock market. Has a lot of practical points like the barbell strategy, which is 90% safe investments and 10% speculative, which allows for outsized returns without risking your whole portfolio. Talks about asset allocation and when and how to structure your portfolio. Also talks about dollar cost averaging and the power in that and compound growth. Simple Parts of Wealth by J.L. Collins breaks down a very complex topic into a very easily digestible, very well written book. He talks about the power of FU money and how it's a good thing to have and it's more easily achieved than you would think. He talks about the power of index funds and dollar cost averaging and compound growth over time. But the thing I love about this book is it talks about a concept which has become more important to me as I get older: simplicity and peace of mind. Minimizing debt and maximizing your flexibility through consistent action and compound growth has been a huge light bulb moment for me. And this book has helped shape my investment strategy moving forward in 2025. It's the kind of book that makes you realize wealth doesn't need to be complicated. Save more, invest consistently, and chill. I also went back to my investing roots and read some of the newer literature surrounding real estate investing. 30 Properties Under 30 by Eddie Deline. It's an Australian-centric real estate book. So if you're elsewhere, some of the loan stuff and structure type things may not apply, but it's a good book for understanding how to grow a large real estate portfolio. Having done this myself, I can say it works, but it's not for everyone. Leverage cuts both ways. Also, the returns can be great, but realizing those returns can be challenging. So overall, if you want to understand the concept of using leverage to build an extensive real estate portfolio and grow a high net worth in property, this is a book I would recommend. Investing in Real Estate with No and Low Money Down by Brendan Turner. This is a compendium of strategies to continue to grow a real estate portfolio or to make money from a real estate portfolio without having to have a huge amount of money first. It includes creative finance methods, which can be helpful when you struggle to get money from the banks. I think it's a good book for anyone investing in real estate, as a lot of people want to invest in real estate but can't necessarily afford it, or the banks won't lend them money. I can tell you from experience that growing a real estate portfolio can be challenging, as when you hit a certain point, the banks will just stop giving you money. So some of these methods, like using private equity from friends, family, or strangers as a business deal, can help you break plateaus. There is a definite risk and drawbacks to this, as anytime you borrow money, it gets risky and complicated, especially when other people get involved. Now, I'm not saying don't ever do it, because I'm not a Sith and I don't deal in absolutes, but just remember that anytime you borrow money to invest in an asset, there is an element of risk. Baby Steps Millionaire by Dave Ramsey. Completely antithetical to growing a large real estate portfolio with little or no money down, Dave Ramsey, love him or hate him, has seemed to help a lot of people and help them make improvements in their financial situations. As far as a holistic personal finance framework goes, it's simpler than some others and no doubt effective for a lot of people. His steps may not always be the most mathematically optimized strategies, but I can't disagree with the practicality and psychology of taking these steps, like having an initial emergency buffer, paying off bad debt from the smallest to the largest balance, etc. Different philosophies, same goal: financial peace. The key is finding the system that actually fits your personality. If you have enjoyed this video, please give a like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel. Thank you. Now, what have I learned about finance, investing, and making money from reading all of these books? Well, for starters, you don't get rich from reading books. You get rich from taking action. So at a certain point, I realized that reading another book wasn't going to help me get to my financial goals. So I have switched my strategy a bit, and now I don't read books for the sake of reading books. In fact, I now read fewer books, but I will reread high impact books multiple times to ensure that I internalize the message. Also, I've also learned that you have income, which is how much and what frequency you bring in money from the world and what you do with it when you have it. You need to focus on income and build that to the point where you have disposable income or reduce costs and save and invest consistently in an appreciating asset while minimizing debt and managing your expenses. Said differently, earn money, spend less than you earn, save and invest consistently for the long term in good, high quality investments. So don't read 100 books, read 5 great ones, reread them, and live them. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.